June 9th of last year, I had a head-on collision and I died. The moment I saw that car in my lane, my thought was, Anisha, you're going to have to let him hit you. Whoo, girl. It's bringing me chills back because I'm having to revisit this moment again. But when he hit me, I was dead. I didn't see a light. Didn't see a tunnel. I didn't see none of those things. I was sitting in a space, sitting Indian style, and I was just sitting there. This place was so warm. It was like, man, I don't want to leave. What? I can feel the energy around me, but I felt this energy around me removing stuff from me. Just taking things and inputting the things in me. And all I heard was, now it's time for you to get up. Get up. Get up, Danisha. I don't want to scare people, but I've always been able to connect to the dead. They may be walking around or, just I've always been able to feel their presence. But when I got up, that was the first time that I saw my ancestors, the angels, and everybody in my car. And I was like, I know y'all ain't in here just to be sitting here. What y'all doing? Help me get out my car. It said, go to the driver's side. The door gonna open. Girl, I opened that driver's side door and I fell out the car. I never expected that I had to lose my life. And when I lost it and came back, I never ever want to take life for granted again. And it made me understand life and death differently. And that shook my family because they lost me. And I'm like, God, I didn't know I had to lose my life. I'm just like, question like, why me, But why not me? Why not you? I would not be here if it wasn't for me having to decide to return back here to be in purpose. Now I am in purpose.
Listen, we are going to go ahead and get into this intro. Welcome to another Cold Game Conversation. I am your host, Jazz Avante. You all, today we have a special, beautiful guest today. I'm going to go ahead and let her introduce herself. This lady right here, this queen right here, every time I talk to her, I feel like I just get ignited. Like, she is a spirit lifter. So I want you to go ahead and introduce yourself, a little bit about what you do and where they can find you.
I am Mommy the Water Goddess, and I am found on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter under Mommy the Water Goddess. I have I just redefined myself because I had to really go back and understand who I was and what I wanted to give to the people. What voice and what did I want to introduce to people with who I am. And so in that journey, I found healing within myself, which led me to find more purpose in wanting to heal others. And when I say heal others, I'm meaning healing others from the mindset, healing others from childhood trauma, healing others, in a space of health, wealth, mindset, because with healing there is, it's a big, it's real big when we talk about healing. But for me, my healing is, to me, it's a gift that a lot of people don't have. And once you find your own healing, you find your own tools. And once you find your own tools, then it's like, you don't want nobody else to have to suffer. You don't want nobody else to have to struggle. So you go and want to heal others. And so for me, I give people the tools they need to heal. I'm not healing you. You're healing yourself. Because if I go into a space trying to heal you, then I get drained. So by giving you the tools, my experience, my life, sharing my story provides healing. And in that, it empowers other people to want to heal too.
Most definitely. Now, one thing on this podcast, I like, talking to the person and figuring out who the person is behind what they do. So I just want you to take us back right now. Take us back to the genesis, when you were a little girl. Talk to us about some of the things that you've had to endure in your childhood to make you the woman that we see today.
Oh, And I just started really identifying with my childhood maybe over the past 2 years because I did a lot of shadow work. And I wanted to understand why maybe I was so angry, why I had these certain behaviors. Were they learned, or was it from a conditioning, or was it from trauma? And a lot of my issues were from just childhood trauma that sometimes we're not aware of, but we just go through it because we feel like that's what we're supposed to do. So we get used to being in that conditioning of being hurt over and over, and then allowing others to hurt us, and then we're hurting ourselves. So as a child, I can remember times when my mom would come to the school and it was parent teacher conference, and every time the teacher had something to say to my mom, she was always saying, Danisha just talks too much. She just talks too much. Every time she's in the classroom, she's talking, you know. And that for me, I didn't understand it as a child. Why would somebody want to say I'm just talking too much, Because that's who I am. So hearing that over and over, she makes good grades, but she talks too much. But instead, they should have been empowering me in a space because people who were talkers, especially at a young age, they become your outspoken leaders later, depending on, you know, how they want to be in front of people or if they have healed in a space to be able to come out and talk. And so that really put me in a space to be quiet, not to share and express my feelings.
Okay.
And from that, I had, when I was about 9 or 10, which this is something that, like I said, over the past 2 years, I had to start going through my childhood trauma. I was molested at the age of 10. And that right there broke my silence too. So that put me more inward with not wanting to be, who I was. I started putting a shadow over myself, hiding how I'm talking, hiding what I'm doing, because after that trauma, it kind of put me in a space of like, maybe I was doing too much. Maybe I was talking too much, or just being, being what a kid is supposed to be. But even growing up, I've always felt like people were always against me. They would either say I talk like a white girl, and my dad was in the military, so we grew up on a military base. So, my language may have been different from everybody else around me, but that wasn't my fault. But I took everything that everybody said to me negative, and I harbored that within myself. And so it made me be more defensive. It made me be more, instead of tapping into my divine feminine, I was more into my masculine energy. So I was more protective about myself, my sister, too, as well. I wanted to protect everybody around me. And I wanted to always have control of myself because my control was taken away from me from a young age. And so once I started to understand that those things that happened to me and those things that I went through as a child had to happen. A lot of people don't, sometimes they look at the things they go through and they find it as a negative thing. But when I started doing the work within myself, I realized that if I would not have went through all those things, would not have been operating in a space of control, how would I ever know how to be vulnerable in a space that I'm in now, to be able to speak when I'm speaking now, to be able to learn how to have that balance between my divine feminine and my masculine, because we are both, and I took my voice, and I can still hear my as teachers. I can see myself sitting at the conference with my teacher and my mom looking like she, is so disappointed in me because I'm talking in class. But I can still see that moment. But then I look at it now and I'm like, sometimes other people, well, not sometimes, all the time, others see your light. But until we see the light in ourselves, then we will allow other people to dim our light. And that's what I allowed a lot of people to do for a long time. And then going into my adulthood, it's the same thing. When I was inside of the church, nothing against the church, but when I was going to church, I always had a light on me. And I've always been outspoken, wanting to do certain things and lead certain stuff. And then there was always people around me that was like, you doing too much. Why you saying this? You want to take over? You want to take control? I'm like, dang. Even as an adult, I got to deal with that. Yeah. And so that made me put my walls up again, and be more in defensive mode. And, sometimes when we have our walls up and we defensive, we can never attract the good that's supposed to come to us because we're still at that low vibration. And when we're at a low vibration and we only see one direction and only see from our hurt and only see from our trauma, then that's what we're going to see around us. That's what we're going to continue to experience. So I continue to experience my childhood trauma even into adulthood. And so I fought with myself because I'm like, well, is it me? I just kept blaming myself over and over and over. And my sister, which is such a big plays a big, huge part in my life because I'm able to be myself around her. Yeah. She's the only person I probably was able to be very transparent with. We're 2 years apart, so a lot of things that I share with her, she has always been my cheerleader, has always encouraged me. And it might not have been maybe over the past 3 years, 4 years that I really started tuning in to see how special she was to me. And so that made me want to tell her and share more with her because she was my coach. She was my person I needed to lean on. Danisha, stop blaming yourself. No, you making the right decisions. No, believe in yourself. That voice that I needed to hear and I couldn't hear myself. And so, and then sharing those things with her because she was so close. We're so close in age and we both lived in the same household together, but we still both had different experiences.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
It just amazes me.
Yep, that's the same how I am with my sisters. My sisters, they're the only people that I feel like I can just go and confide in because I am that friend that everyone comes to and dump their problems. And I that's cool with me. God put that on me, and I'm okay with it. So it's like, who do I turn to? You know what I'm saying? Like, I have a strong relationship with the Most High, but it's sometimes I just want to get it out, to somebody who feels me. You kind of struck a nerve when you said childhood trauma. There are some things that I'm still healing from, right? So I want you to kind of delve deeper into that. How do you heal that little girl? Like, what did you go through to heal her?
I did. I started off with journaling.
Okay.
And I went back to. I did some meditation too as well because a lot of times some things that has happened to us in that childhood trauma, I don't know why. It's like we block it out, like we forget it. And so when I started going back and remembering things and starting to look at myself and ask myself, why do you get so angry? Like I went through a series of questions that I had to ask myself that I had to answer truthfully. Yeah. That part. Because a lot of times people don't want to see themselves. And so one time I wrote my journal that, because I was trying to start my meditation and every time I meditated, I was like, I just can't tap in. What's going on? And every time I would close my eyes, I was thinking negative thoughts. And I'm like, why do I have these negative thoughts? Where these negative thoughts come from? And when I started asking myself where the negative thoughts come from, I started writing my negative thoughts down. And then I started saying, well, where could that have happened? What happened to me to where I'm thinking in that way? What experience did I have? And going back and understanding the experience and revisiting the trauma. Because when we revisit the trauma in a space of trying to go to understand, to understand, then we see that trauma differently. Because I didn't want to be that anymore. I started really being intentional and taking baby steps with myself and then being kind to myself when I faced myself, meaning when I had to go back and see that little girl in that experience. And I had to literally tell my inner child, it's safe. You know, I wrote to myself, when I close my eyes, I'm afraid of what I might see. You know, why is that? Because what I might see may not like me. And the things that I see all around me are the ugly versions of me that I want to change. I started telling myself, writing myself these little stories, writing it to my little girl version. And I would write the things down that hurt me, even the people that hurt me. And I had to find ways that made me happy to let it go.
So when you say shadow work, let's talk to the people who don't, this is foreign to them. When people hear shadow work, they be like, what type of voodoo you in? What type of, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah, I get
so
it.
I
Yeah.
want you to really break it down into layman's terms, because what you're saying is definitely registering to me, but I had to go down that rabbit hole. So kind of talk to the people who never even heard of that term before.
Yeah. Shadow working is basically asking yourself a series of questions that you need to find positive solutions to. Basically,
Okay.
I want to keep that short like that. So, say you have experienced some hurt in the area. Say, like, I'm gonna use my example of me being molested. You know, I had to ask myself, why did that hurt me? Was it my fault? You know, kind of have this conversation within yourself, and then find a solution from that conversation that can help you move forward, and then allow yourself to let those things go. Because the shadow is only the version of you that people don't see. We hide that, you know. If we're not and for me, the shadow too also helps you go to your higher self. You know, a lot of people get afraid to be in the shadows, but the shadow work is challenging, because you have to challenge yourself to look at yourself, look at your situation, look at your life, look at the people around you, look at your behaviors. You know, you have to challenge yourself to see that. A lot of times people don't want to look at that. You know, we want to be behind the scenes and behind the shadow, operating in that shadow self. And a lot of times, in our shadow working and in the shadow, we bring forth the ugly versions of us sometimes when we're responding to things. You know, but once you deal with your shadow, meaning you deal with those things that are deep down within you, you start to for me, you know, I oftentimes like to be in my shadow, because I call it the valley. I call it the deep parts. The valley gets deep, it gets dark, it gets lonely in the shadow, you know. And when we allow ourselves to be there for however long we have to be there, once we come out of that, you don't have to worry about going back through that version of yourself again, because it's healed, you know. And so I like to tell people to journal, you know, at least daily. But while you're journaling, write down things that trigger you, because that's also part of shadow working. Write those things down that trigger you. You may say, why don't I like to go places? And it's like you go down them questions. Why you don't like to go places? Because something inside of you has happened that has allowed you not to move forward out of that space. You know, so therefore, once you say, why don't I like to go places? Is it because of the people? Well, why don't I like the people? And then you go down another rabbit hole. Maybe because those people remind me of something that happened to me when I was bullied.
Okay.
Why did I feel bullied?
Okay.
Because I didn't stand up for myself.
Okay.
Why didn't I stand up for myself? You know, go down that rabbit hole of your own trauma and your own feelings, because when you do that, you start finding your own answers and your own solutions.
Right.
You can't give me solutions to my shadow, you know, because
Right.
this is my shadow.
Correct.
I can't give you solutions to yours.
So when did you cultivate this being here? Like, you wasn't always this spiritually inclined, right? So take us down that. Like, when did you start like going within self and like really becoming the woman that we see today?
I took 2 years off from my job. I was working at a job where I was making at least maybe between $80,000 a year.
Okay.
And I was struggling with myself. And during this time, COVID happened. And so when COVID happened, I was battling whether I want to go back to work or whether I want to stay home, because I had found myself not being happy with my life, even though I had all this money, having this money, my kids are doing well. I'm like, I'm just not happy. I don't have no sense of peace. And so when I started realizing that I didn't have a sense of peace, I was like, I got to do something.
Okay.
What's the first thing I need to do? And I was like, I'm going to have to quit my job. So, and that was the first thing that was my first test for myself, to prove to myself that you can do this, because I've never not been without a job, right?
Okay.
I've never been in a space where anybody else had to take care of me. Well, I've never not have.
Okay.
I've been working since I was 16. So me deciding to quit my job, I had to really do some inner work on what I believed within myself.
Okay.
If you quit your job, I went through all these different questions in my head, all this different doubt, because, we start making excuses when it's time to make a shift.
Mm-hmm.
And when COVID happened, it was like it was my reset. It was that push that I needed, because I was at home. During that time, I was able to work from home. And I was like, when it got time to go back to work, I was like, I don't know if I want to do this. I don't know if I want to go back to work, because I found a little peace being at home, because I'm just now starting my journey. I got time to do me a little meditation and journaling, and me and my kids are enjoying each other. COVID was a beautiful time for me and my family, because I just started my Audible books, reading and listening to 19 Keys, and that really motivated me to want to quit my 9 to 5, because it's like, you don't need a 9 to 5. You can, this is, having somebody show you the steps of what you can take to be successful. That was the boost that I needed, because I didn't know those steps. I didn't have anybody around me that was doing what I was doing. And the things that I was saying to people, they wasn't believing me. And I'm like, I know what I'm saying is right, but why am I feeling like I'm the outcast, because I want to decide to quit my job, and pursue to find more peace for myself. And so, whenever, back to COVID, whenever COVID came, and me and my whole household caught COVID, me, my kids, it was all of us, and it was really a trying time. And that right there was a time for me to use everything I had been studying on me and my family.
Had to put it to the test.
So I was like, really?
Yep.
I was already working on my mental, because COVID was only just a mental battle people had to fight. And if you wasn't mentally stable, then you lost the battle, with your health, with your family, with being home with your kids and your man and all the other stuff. You lost that battle. And me being home, already in that space, being able to work within that space and build myself up, boom, here come COVID. We got COVID. I'm like, okay, what I'm going to do? Let me go in here and get my herbs. So
We're going to pause real quick, because this mic is like,
okay.
you can what I'm saying?
Gratitude.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, there we go.
But so I had to start using the tools and different things that I was already studying. And not only did I heal myself, I healed my children, and I healed my dad, who had cancer, who went into the hospital and came out. They were saying cancer patients were going to die, the elderly were going to die. And when my dad came out, he was the last one to come out of it. I knew then it was time for me to elevate higher. I needed to spend more time with myself. And so it was time, fast forward, it was time to get ready to go back to work. Everybody get back in the work system. And so I was like, oh, I don't want to go back to work. But I started going. And when I went back to work after COVID, I wasn't the same. it's like the veil was lifted off my eyes, and I saw everything, everybody around me. I was paying attention to how people were moving. I was moving a little slower because for the first time in my life, I was still. And with me being still, I was able to see myself. And I'm like, girl, how was you going to practice and working and how was you doing all that? Because that moment of stillness allowed me to really be present. And when I began to be present, I began to start seeing which direction I wanted for me and my family. And so I think I might have went back to work maybe 2-3 weeks. And I told my friend JB, I was like, I don't think I'm going to come back. He was like, so you going to give a 2 weeks notice? I was like, I don't even know. I said, I got to really go within myself and see what I need to do.
What was it? Maybe 3 to 4 months ago, I had this little job, this training job, right? I needed it for, I just needed it at the time.
Yeah.
I was there all for about 6 months. Going somewhere, I have to get up. I have to work on y'all time. I have to do what y'all say. It's like that wasn't fulfilling to my spirit. It's like, and one day I was just like, you know what? I can continue to do what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I'm not about to sit up here and take this nonsense from you. You telling me what to do and with this attitude. I'm like, like I can't do this no more. And I ain't do no 2 week notice or nothing like that. I'm like, you know what, Jazz, we gone. And from that day forward, I vowed to myself, I'm like, Jazz, like we can do this. We can do this. So talk to the person who is in that space right now. They really don't like what they do, but they don't know how to expand from that experience. Like, how would you minister to that person?
It's a mindset shift because you have to know that everything you need is within. You have to detach from what you used to know and go into the knowing of what you already know within yourself. And trust yourself. I had to learn how to trust me, not to waver, not to hear nobody else's opinions on what I should do, how I should do it, what it's not going to work, is you can't do this. And it has thousands of people doing that. You have to have a strong mindset. And the way you build your mindset is you got to write you some goals down and believe in them. And then once you write those goals down, you have to actually be a doer of what you say you're going to do. But that one result will motivate you to want to create more.
Yeah.
That one result of me healing my family proved to me that I was a healer.
How did you heal your family?
We did vitamin D. So we was out in the sun. And I did, before ginger root even got popular, me and my family was already 6 months prior to COVID. I had got a download that there was going to be a pandemic. I didn't even understand what a pandemic was going to be like. I didn't understand none of those things. But when it's time for you to start elevating and you start trusting in yourself, those thoughts and those downloads you start to get, once you prove to yourself that what you've been saying is true, what you talk about, because you have those side conversations with people who you can trust, who you can be your true authentic self around. And when you're speaking in your higher self, it's best to get around people who allow you to speak like that. So when things start happening, it only validates what you already are. So therefore, when you start getting different downloads or different visions or different things that are going to happen before it happens, you believe that and you move in that. And so I had gotten a download like there was going to be a sickness or disease or a pandemic. And I was telling my kids this. My kids thought I was like, Mama, you are going crazy. I'm like, no, y'all. Something is ahead. So we started drinking ginger root. I was making ginger root juices.
Okay.
And I was like, we got to get our body prepared because what's about to happen, we got to get ready. And so when COVID happened and we were already on that regimen of getting healthy, whenever we got sick, our body naturally did what it was supposed to do because we had already activated it. It was already in the sunlight. My kids didn't do a lot of yoga and the things that I was doing, but I allowed them to see me do that. So when the time came, they already knew what they needed to do because I was already moving in motion. COVID just made me want to dig deeper into what's really going on. I wanted to really understand what is happening, and I had to really get myself out of being angry. Because once you start studying and you start researching stuff, it'll take you into a space of anger. And then sometimes people get stuck there, but you have to take that knowledge that you know and continue to build, so therefore you can get more awareness, more knowledge, and that knowledge is the power. Truly, it is the power. So when you get that knowledge, you know how to maneuver, you know how to move.
How does one protect themselves? Like, how does one protect their spiritual being from everything that's going on? Because it's something going on here. I feel like it's a spiritual warfare. Something is here and something is trying to feed off of our fear. So how does one protect that?
You protect it by what are you feeding yourself? What are you watching? What are you listening to? I don't watch TV. I only watch things that feed me and align with who I am. I don't follow a lot of people that are negative. I don't want to vibrate like that. You have to protect your eye. Like back in the day, they used to say, be mindful of what you see and what you hear and what you do. You don't need to see everything. Don't need to be a part of everything. You don't need to be everywhere.
Right.
You don't need to be around everybody. Right. You should trust yourself enough to know that whatever you feel on the inside, trust it. I tell my daughter this all the time. And I tell my kids this, but I specifically tell my 7-year-old this. Don't trust what you see. Trust how you feel. Because it's never going to lead you wrong.
That intuition.
And we've been taught not to do that. So we've been taught from a young age not to trust ourselves because our parents, which have been conditioned, they which is not their fault because we've all been conditioned. But our parents tell us to go this way when we feel that we should go a different way. Or I'm gonna give an example. Like my daughter, we may go somewhere and she may not speak to somebody. Now, when I was younger, Mama, it's rude not to speak to people. No, it's not. Because children already have that divine spirit and energy within them. So they already recognize energy. So if she doesn't want to speak to somebody, I allow her because I'm only teaching her how to trust herself.
I've never heard of that.
Yeah, I only teach her to trust herself because I don't want to disrupt what she's feeling.
Oh.
Why? Why would I want to do that?
I'm a giving spirit. I want to give. But like you said, practicing that detachment, I need to work on that because I can kind of feel some things weighing on my spirit because I want to give, I want to help, I want to minister, but I have to learn how to detach sometimes. Jazz, you can't be in your feelings. You're serving your purpose. Let God handle that.
Yeah, yep. Let it go. And then too, in that detachment, it also gives us peace. So if it's disrupting the peace you have within, it's time to let it go, and your emotions will start getting involved because that's your higher self triggering your emotions to let you know, hey, I need you to make a change. I need you to go higher, Jazz. I need you to make some adjustments. Those adjustments only going to help you not give so much, but give, but be expecting to receive what you're giving in a different space that feels you and your purpose. So I'm saying, so you don't want to be overly giving because we're givers, we're lovers, we want to help, but that gets draining because are we truly really helping the people that we say we're helping, or we hurting ourselves in the process because we're supposed to continue to rise? And if that is hurting us in that process, then we need to figure out why. Do I need to detach from this, or is this something that's healthy? Or when I call, or when you come in for practice, if or training, when you come in and maybe you may do something that's uneasy for me within myself, I need to come back and sit with myself, not just on how well the session went. Oh, the session went good, but how did I feel through the session? Were you communicating back with me? Was it reciprocated feeding? Was it feeding me? Was I able to be my highest version of myself to give to you? Because if I'm not able to do that, then maybe my time with you is up and you should be going to somebody else. And I'm okay with that because you're gonna always have the things you need, whether it's financially, whether it's spiritually, whether it's emotionally. You're gonna all that there's no void there. No void there at all. And when we understand that we don't have any lack and that we are source, we are God's source energy, then anything that doesn't align with that, then it's not for us to have that in our space at that time and be okay with that. It ain't you. Your emotions are going to come into place because we still are human. But when those emotions start happening, it's a good thing because it's a trigger letting you know some adjustments need to be made.
We kind of talked about this off the record. I wanted you to kind of expound on this a little bit more. The transitional period. Have you been through a grand transition in your life? And going through that, what have you found out about yourself? And what you learn through that transition?
June 9th of last year, I had a head-on collision and I died. And I had to learn how to, and I was like, man, look like I was just getting on the verge of getting to the top, within myself. I was like, I got my meditation down good. I'm journaling. I'm growing my plants and my herbs. And I got a few clients, boom. I had a wreck. And what for me felt like rock bottom. I had lost my memory. I had to learn how to walk again. I had to learn how to do everything over again. So that whole 2 years I was working and trying to get myself to a space. I couldn't even get out and do my yoga anymore. Wow. So I went into a depression state because I'm like, oh my God, like what is happening? I have to start all the way over. Wow. I don't have no car. I can't go to work. I can't walk. I can barely even talk. It was a really, really, really rough time for me. But one thing that I can say is that what really pushed me over and got me into this space was that moment, because I had to allow people to love me the same way I love them. And that right there is hard for somebody who was always giving and always loving. Now I got to be the one getting loved on. And so because the people I was loving on, I was giving my best version of myself to them in that moment. When I was down, baby, my people showed up. And that love is what brought me back to life. And a lot of people don't even know I had a wreck, don't even know I went through that struggle, don't even understand like the things that me and my family went through, because now the queen is down. What everybody gonna do? You understand what I'm saying? And that shook my family because they lost me. And when I returned back into myself after that wreck, I came back a different version of myself. So I mean, the way I was seeing things was different. It almost like put me in it felt like I finally was present in this body. Okay. I finally was aware that I am here, meaning that my spirit is here. And my old man told me one time, he said I was outside. I'm just like, and I'm grateful for him because he served me in such a on such a high level and allowed me to just cry, allow me to vent, allow me to just say I'm tired. I'm tired. And I'm like, God, I didn't know I had to lose my life. I'm just like question like, why me? But why not me? Is the way I had to turn around and ask myself, why not you? What you think? You all the things you've been through, you think that was in vain? You think I took you through all that because I knew that when you had to go through this, you had to bounce back, and you needed all these things and all these people that were around you to get you to where you're at. And so he told me one day, and I was sitting outside, he said, Danisha, he said, you have been given a second time to live life again. How you choose to live it. Girl, when he said that to me, that woke my spirit up.
Woke you up.
I'm like, okay. You mean tell me I got control of what I want to do and how I want to be and what I want to have and what I want to live? I got a second chance because I had to think about it. I could be gone. I could not. I would not be here if it wasn't for me having to decide to return back here to be in purpose. Now I am in purpose. And when I came back here, because that experience that I had, and I was only 3 minutes away from my house. 3 minutes. And so and it was in a curve, and when I got ready to hit that curve, I always oftentimes hear people's stories about when they got ready to die, these things were racing through their head, and they saw this, they saw the light, For me, it wasn't like that, because the moment I saw that car in my lane, I couldn't do nothing else but, because in that lane, that it was a one-way street. I'm going one way, he come another way. But in that space, and it was a curve. And either I could have, my thought was, Anisha, you're going to have to let him hit you. And if you don't let him hit you, then you're going to swerve and you're going to go over into the ditch, because the ditch is like a little small river. I was going to go into there, and I was like, I know if I go in there, they ain't going to be able to find me. So I said, "Whoo, girl," it's bringing me chills back because I'm having to revisit this moment again. But I was like, you just going to have to let him hit you. And that was my last thing. It's like, I'm about to die.
Really?
I knew then I was about to die.
See, you having this conversation with yourself, it had to be within 2 to 3 seconds.
It had to be, but it felt like it was so long, but it wasn't, because
Really?
it felt like it was unreal. I couldn't believe I was about to have this experience. I was like, I'm about to die. Girl, all I could think about was I was about to die.
Really?
And when he hit me, I was dead. And I was I didn't see a light. Didn't see a tunnel. I didn't see none of those things. I was sitting in a space, and I saw myself. I was in myself, but saw myself sitting in a space. I was in my sitting Indian style, and I was just sitting there. And it was so, girl, this place was so warm. It was so, I can just feel the energy. I can feel the love. I can feel just me. I was at a place to where it was like, man, I don't want to leave.
What?
And I can feel the energy around me. And I didn't see the person, but I felt this energy around me removing stuff from me. Just taking and putting the things in me, putting who I was, reminding me, girl, I was like, I'm just sitting there. And that whole time, I couldn't do anything but give gratitude. And all I heard was, now it's time for you to get up. And get up. Get up, Danisha. Get up. And when I got up, the first time in my life, because I've always been able, I don't want to scare people, but I've always been able to connect to the dead. I've always seen spirits. I've always seen just the dead. They may be walking around or, just I've always been able to feel their presence.
Okay.
I actually see them. But when I got up, that was the first time that I saw all my people, my ancestors, the angels, and everybody in my car. So I hit this man head on. My car is completely dead. I'm over a little bit over the rail, almost in the river. And I get up and I'm panicking because I'm like, where am I? Like, what is going on? Electrical car, right? My first thought was like, I cannot get out of my car. I couldn't get out of my car. And I was like, I know y'all ain't in here just to be sitting here. What y'all doing? Help me get out of my car. So I go to the right. And I'm like, I can't go out right here because if I open my door, I'm going to fall.
Uh-huh.
I'm like, no, I can't do that. Y'all got to help me get out of this car. It said, go to the driver's side. The door going to open. Girl, I opened that driver's side door and I fell out the car. And I looked over to the man that they had the head-on collision with. He looked dead. And I was like, oh my God. It was almost like a movie because it was just so unreal. I'm looking at the man over there dead, looked like he's dead, and I'm like, oh, I said, I'm just overwhelmed, And lo and behold, girl, my man came running down that street because it's a long road. He came running down that street, girl, and this is how I knew he was for me. With a lot of other things, but it was like I saw God, because he is God, coming down the street to save me. And when he got there, I could do nothing but just cry. And he was like, baby, it's okay. I'm here. And I'm like, you all right? I just was very unaware of what was going on. But because we're energetically connected, me and him, he is my safe space. He gave me what I needed just to ground myself. But that experience right there, I mean, it took me to a whole nother higher level. Because after that, I had to really, I couldn't sleep. I kept dreaming that over and over. I kept trying to understand why. Kept trying to make some understanding about it. But it wasn't for me to understand it. It was for me to experience it, And I oftentimes, think, and when we see people that sometimes are in that higher space, they all have went through either a life or death situation. And I was like, really? Like, I never expected that I had to lose my life. And when I lost it and came back, I never ever want to take life for granted again. And that right there pushed me to want to continue to strive to be the best version of myself every single day, because we choose to be here. We come here on a divine assignment. And until your assignment is up, it ain't time for you to go nowhere. But when your time is up, and it made me understand life and death differently, because, we are not to hold on to people when they have to leave, because if you experience that person and took advantage of loving them in the moment when they were present, then when they're gone, you'll always have their presence around. You don't have to mourn them because you understand and you took time and you took advantage of the experience, because we are here to experience each other. Not here to hold on to people. Not here to make people do what we want them to do. We're here to experience one another. And once we experience each other, because we all are put in each other's path to remind us of who we are. And people are only a reflection of who we are. So if you don't like the reflection of what you see about the people around you, then you got to go within yourself and change what you see about yourself.
Why do you think the Creator put you through that? Like, why? What was your, revelation during that?
Because
Why did you go through that?
because I was still attached to material things.
Okay.
And I was still attached to parts of the world that needed to die. So everything that was worldly within me died on that day.
Okay.
And I just I just recently got a vehicle. I've been out of a vehicle for a whole year. I had to learn how to ask people for things that I didn't want to ask. I had to learn to be okay without having nothing, without having no money. I would go to my bank account. It was zero, 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 negative zero. And I had to learn how to be okay with understanding that that is not my source. You know, I had to detach from a lot of things. And without me going through that, I would not have never been able to do that on my own. I had to lose I've never been without nothing. Girl, look, I can be without anything and have peace. Before, I wouldn't have been able to do that. And so that right there taught me how to let go.
Being that the world is so materialistic, right? Everything AI, artificial. How does one come to that? How does one come to that revelation within themselves? Like, it's not all about the materialistic. How do you minister to that person?
I'm gonna use my kids for examples because our kids are in a world to where materialism is pushed on them. And what I try to tell them is that don't allow that to be your God. And if you want to have things, and there's nothing wrong with having nice things, but don't make that a priority of why you are who you are.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? Do I want to have a big house and a mansion? Yes. But if that had to be taken away from me today or tomorrow, will I die without it? No. But I don't want people to think that, you know what I'm saying, that going to buy things and looking nice is a bad thing, because it's not. But that doesn't define who you are. You know, you define you.
Yeah.
And once you define you, you can go get all these things and you can let it go when you want to let it go. Or if you want to give it to somebody because you feel like they need to be blessed with it, you can give it to them without having to feel like you're attached to that. But when you make that something, when you take a material thing and you make that your reason why you are, or reason why you're living, then that becomes a problem. That means that you're serving that instead of serving self.
Okay.
So you want to set people up that surround you that matches your energy. And so, and if they don't match your energy, like people I always have people on an interview with me. They don't even know they be getting interviewed. I throw little stuff out there to see how you gonna respond and see what you gonna say and see how you gonna act, and then that lets me know of the level of consciousness of where you're at and what I can give to you and how much I can give.
That is powerful. You are ministering to me and everybody out there. That is so powerful. What?
Yeah, I'm telling you, and that works because that keeps you protected.
That's
that
powerful.
keeps you not giving too much, because I had to learn how not to give, because everybody's not ready for who you are. And you have to understand that. And sometimes we want to give to everybody, and then they're not at the level of consciousness within themselves to even take on that burden that they feel is a burden. But I'm really giving you some game. I'm giving you some knowledge for you to reciprocate that back to me. And if you can't, I'm okay with that. I'm not going to take that personal. That just means that you can't carry the weight that I'm giving.
That is, you are speaking right now. Oh, Lord have mercy.
You can't.
You speaking right now. I can't. I don't even have anything to say about
Nobody
that.
got time to be wasting no more.
I received that. This is really helping me, and this is helping the givers out there too.
Yeah, because we're not taught how to. We're just naturally givers, but we're not taught what to give, when to give, and how much to give.
Yes.
We're not taught that.
That's a fact.
So for me, it's like I had to learn that, and then I had to strategically I always like hypothesis and theory. I always like to prove myself to myself. And so I got tired of being drained and not getting and receiving what I deserve to get. Because once you realize your worth and realize what you have and realize your story and realize the things that you went through is value, I ain't got time to be giving it to people who don't value that. And I don't care if you feel a certain type of way about me not giving what I have to offer to you because you're not giving it back to me. I deserve to keep that to myself. Why do I got to give that to you if you not? And then it's like I said, just like the same interview questions that we have to go on for a job. Have yourself a criteria, some boundaries around yourself for the people who got to be around you.
Gotcha.
And if you only got 2 or 3 or 4, that's fine, because guess what? Once you start vibrating at that level and you've been proven enough to yourself that you can manage the people around you and they giving what they giving to you, it's just like the old saying goes, study to show yourself approved. Who are you studying? You're studying yourself to show yourself approved to get more. You can't get too much at one time. It's levels. It's evolving. Like, why do we want to feel like, I get a business and I want to become a millionaire overnight? Why? Because you want to skip the process? Why?
Yeah.
Why do you want to skip that?
Yeah.
Like if you want to get out the mud for real, get out the mud for real. That means that you got to go through some learning and some teachings and some understanding and some trials, because, and those trials only help you gain more knowledge. So therefore, when you get knowledge and you get the power, you don't abuse it. Now you go back and you give it to the people. Now you become the voice.
Yes.
Now you become what people need to hear. Now you become the example. You become the living proof. People want to see proof, not by just the words that you're saying. You got to move and do an action for real.
You have to live
Be about that. So when people come around you, you can be on a podcast speaking and giving game. A lot of people sometimes can give game, but some of that game is given only because they watch somebody else give the game, so they're good with mimicking that.
Yep, they just regurgitate, and you can tell, you can sense that. Like,
yes.
what you like. Ain't no regurgitating none of that. I can just feel it in you. You have been through so much, and I want to tell you, like, your aura. My first day meeting you, you just had this light around you. I want you to kind of talk about, your transition from Dalnisha to. I don't want to butcher your name. You said Mama
D, water goddess.
I want you to talk about that. How did you transition to Mama D,
water goddess?
Water goddess, yes.
I one day I said to myself, how do you want to be remembered? How do you want people to see you, view you, and feel you? My name is Dalnisha, but to shorten it, I said D. And I am a mother, of not just the kids that I birth, but everything around me I mother. Everything around me I grow. So it's Mama D, water, because I flow like the water of the goddess that I am.
I love that. Mama D, water goddess.
And
I like that.
Everything flows and grows through me. If you want knowledge, I'm a be in a space to where I have enough to give to where you never go thirsty. So I flow like the river. I flow like the ocean.
I love this. Being in this space, it's a lot of women out there. We're living in our masculinity. And you said you are basking in your divine femininity. So how do we return back to that divine femininity for the masses?
I can say for me, what really helped me get into my feminine energy, because I've always been a tomboy. I really like boy stuff all the time. I've always just liked that, And I just recently, as I got older, started really being okay with being around women.
Okay.
Because I was never the type of person that did mess. I feel like women were too messy, too catty, too competitive, too just angry with one another. So I was comfortable in my masculine energy, being around the dudes and being a little sis and doing what they do. And their competitive was different than how the women are competing. And I'm like, I ain't with that.
Yeah.
You know, but when I started understanding why women did those things, were competitive with each other, was because it was the lack of self-love. So when I started to love myself, I started to understand that I'm not in competition with you, babe. I ain't even, I don't mind complimenting you and tell you how beautiful you are. I don't mind helping you out, because I started loving myself on a different level and started really sitting back looking at women like, what is really wrong with us? Why are we the way we are? And I had to understand that from going through my own trauma, understanding why I am the way I am. And then talking to a lot of women, like they've experienced the same things. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, this is why we are the way we are. Okay. And I go back to what really helped me tap into my divine feminine is my man, because all the men I've been with before, I had to take on a role of being that man in a relationship. And I understand now was because a lot of those men didn't have a mother. And so they didn't know how to honor and love a queen. Okay. Because the mother, sometimes with our boys, we give them too much that when it's time for them to become men, they have no structure, no discipline, no accountability for self. And so then when they get with a woman, who reminds them of their mother, who does everything. So the woman gets with that man, and then she takes on the role of the mother and the woman and the provider, take on all those responsibilities, and not realizing she's operating in her masculine space, because those are the things that he should be doing. Right. And when I got with my man, the man that I have now, he's like, Danisha, what you doing? Let me take the trash out. Like, no, I can take that out myself, because I'm on this independent thing, Like, you don't have to just act like you're so independent. What am I here for? Mm-hmm. What you need me for? So I had to start sitting with myself and ask myself, what do I need him for? Why do I feel like I have to take the trash out? Why do I feel like I have to do this and do that? He came in and shared the responsibility with me with everything, which allowed me to tap more into myself. Okay. Anisha, why don't you go do something for yourself? Do you realize that you are a stay-at-home wife? And I'm like, so I need you to get that in your head. I'm like, what? That was not normal for me. Okay. So having to understand that I don't have to be strong, having somebody with me that reminds me that I don't have to be strong, and serves me in a way to where if I'm tired, I can be tired. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? If I need help in the kitchen, I don't have to feel like him helping me is something that he don't want to do. It's something that he wants to do. Gotcha. I want to assist you. I want to help you. I am here for you. Mm-hmm. And oftentimes women don't have anybody to be there for them. And so when he did that, I was like, you know what? I'm just going to just do what Anisha want to do. Let me find out who I am. Because I'm more than just a mother, And when I had to realize that too, that also helped me go back to understand who I am. Just because I had you don't mean I just got to just be doing that all the time. I don't just have to be a mother all the time. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? I don't have to just be your coworker or go to somebody's job. I don't have to just do that. And we sometimes lose ourselves in doing all these other roles and not loving us. And when you don't love yourself at a level of doing things for yourself that makes you happy, you will never tap into that divine feminine. Mm.
I want you to delve a little deeper with your relationship with your man. Mm-hmm. Y'all's love is beautiful.
Oh, girl, gratitude to that, because we have so many people. I mean, literally, they're like, man, y'all are for real. And I'm like, yeah, we are. And it's almost like when I watch us, I look at us, I'm like, man, is this real? Like I cannot believe that I'm in this space in this moment. And me and Kyle met when we were younger. See, we may have been, I want to say, because I think I had my first son then. And I think he had his son too. And we met, and I was going over to his house, to his mom's house, and then I would go over to his house. And at that time, I didn't really know myself, but he has always been who he was. And but for me, I was like, I ain't into that. I ain't into that little, I don't know what he got going on, but he's just different. He was different. And I was like, you know what? I ain't finna talk to him right now because I'm on my, excuse my language, I'm on my whole shit. I'm on my whole shit right now. So I'm gonna have to double back around to him. So I don't want to mess this up. So I just stopped talking to him, and years went on, and I think we saw each other again, because this is what he told me. He saw me again, may have been 10 years later. He saw me again, and I had, I was going to a school, and he was picking his son up. And I was with another guy at the time. And he was like, he looked at me, and I ain't look at him. I was like, what? He said, you don't remember that? I'm like, no. He's like, yeah, I looked at you. And I was like, man, that nigga you with, man, he don't deserve you. Like, really? It was like, yeah. Once you start going through relationships and different things like that, you start, each relationship teaches you something. And I was reflecting on just the past relationships I was having, and I was like, man, what type of man do I want? So I started envisioning the man that I want. Started saying, I want my man to be like this. I want him to be kind, to be gentle. I want to be loving, providing, protecting. Just started. I don't want no man who don't support my dream. I want a man who supports my vision. Started speaking all those things. And one day I was at home, and I was doing my meditation, and I envisioned this man with dreads. And I was like, wait a minute. Man with dreads, who is that? I'm like, I don't know. So I called my friends, Jasmine I, and I was like, girl, I'm having these thoughts about a man. He got dreads. She was like, word? She's one of my sisters I called just to be, because I was at the time, I couldn't tell everybody everything. So she was one of my ones. And I was like, yeah, girl. And I am just like, who is this man with the dreads? Fast forward, I was having my first event, doing an event, just introducing who I was to some people in the area. And I posted my event, and he sends me an inbox. He was like, hey, I see you having an event. And he said, how can I be of service to you? And I was like,
Yeah.
Give service to me.
Yeah.
I was nervous at first. I was like, I don't know. He's like, well, tell me more about your event.
Okay.
I'm like, tell you more? I'm like, what?
Yeah.
It was very interesting to me that he asked about my event. He asked how could he be of service at my event, which showed me that he was into what I was doing. And he said, yeah, because I might get my mom to come, because she can really use some healing. That right there was like, wow, he love his mama. He love his mother too. Like, wait a minute. And so he was like, after that, I was like, okay, I told him about the event. I sent him over the link so he can, purchase a ticket for his mom. And he was like, I'm going to get back with you tomorrow, and then we can talk more about it. So I was like, okay. So next day he texts me on Facebook and he was like, I really like the stuff you're doing on your page. Just give me a lot of just good energy. And I was like, wait a minute. I started like, wait a minute. I started feeling something just by us texting. And then he said, hey, I got a song, because he sing. I mean, he doesn't sing, but he's a poet. He's a creator. And he was like, I got this song I want you to hear, and I'm gonna send it to you. And he sent the song to me, Coming to a Safe Space with Me. And the song spoke everything that my spirit needed to hear would come into a safer space with me. Like he was rapping to me. I was like, hold up. Mm-hmm. I said, are you good? I don't know if you, what you got going on? Because I feel like I'm being drawn to you. We meet on this full moon and he comes with a white candle, Palo Santo. And I'm like, oh, and he do the things I do too? Like,
you found him.
Like, this not be real.
That's what's up.
And whenever we finally connected, and just were connecting every day, I called my friend back. I was like, girl, do you remember that vision I told you about the dude with dreads? Why am I with the dude with dreads? She was like, what? She was just so excited on the phone. She was like, girl, I can't believe it. And I was like, girl, you won't believe who it is. And I told her who it was. She was like, oh my God, y'all are perfect. He's my yin to my yang.
Yep.
And it's like he understands how I feel without me saying it, vice versa. And then he told me, he said, yeah, I told myself that if I was to ever get a chance to get you again, you was going to be mine.
I love that for you.
So he makes sure that I'm in a space to be happy so we all can get fed. Because if the woman isn't happy,
Nah, that's a fact though. That is a fact. You know what? Let's go ahead and wrap this up. Like I appreciate you coming. It's a lot that I learned today, and I know it's a lot that people can take from this. Mm-hmm. You being a healer, you being in this space is just it's refreshing, right? On this show, being that this show is called Cold Game Conversations, I like to end the show with my guests giving a piece of cold game, like within any aspect in life. And you can just talk about whatever you would like.
Give your truth. Speak your truth. And however people receive it, that's not for you to determine, That's not for you to take personal. If you always are in your truth and speaking your truth, then you always free. Okay. The objective is to be free. It's not to be in bondage within yourself. So give your truth, speak your truth, and be your truth. Walk it. Walk your truth. And once you walk your truth, everything that is truth outside of that will find itself to you. And you ain't got to work hard for the things that you want to have. You ain't got to go out there and get over on people. You don't have to go out there and lie to nobody. Yeah. If you speaking your truth and you giving your truth and you walking your truth, everything that you desire to have is yours.
Y'all,
everything.
The queen has spoken, y'all. The queen has spoken. Yes. Once again, I appreciate you for blessing the space. Tell them where to find you once again, and just plug everything that you got going on right now.
Look for me on TikTok, Facebook, and Instagram at Mommy D Wata Goddess. MAMIDWATA Goddess. I am available on those sites. I am accepting new clients. So if you want to go book me today. You can book me tomorrow, next month, but I'm always available. I'm here to serve you. I'm here to give you the tools you need to vibrate at your highest self. So I look forward to connecting to all you divine ones soon. And I appreciate your time. And Jazzy, I appreciate you as well. I love you so much. And you always know that I'm here all the time. And whatever you have to give to me, I take it because I'm forever a student. I love to learn. And I'm proud of you. I'm proud of the space you have created because you allow people like us to come in and just be us.
Yep.
And it doesn't have to be structured. It's just free game to people who want to tap in.
Yep.
So I appreciate that. Gratitude to you.
I appreciate you. I appreciate you, man. Listen, you are now tuned into another Cold Game Conversation, and I am your host, Jazz Avante. Listen, go ahead and like, comment, and subscribe to the page, man. And if you got some game from this, go ahead and share it to somebody. You know what I'm saying? Share this out, man. So, man, y'all can hit us up in another day, man. We out.
Peace.
Peace out, man.